Hello everyone. If you clicked on this video, there's a good chance you're a fan of Berserk. I myself have only just become a fan recently. It's to the point where this story has really put my life into perspective, and I would say that it's truly changed my life in a few ways that I don't want to get specific. I relate to Guts on a spiritual level and mindset, and the mindset of the struggler has honestly been keeping me going these last few months. Not to get too personal, but I'm just being honest. Now, with that out of the way, I wanted to talk about what this video really is about, which is the influences of Berserk. Now, this video could easily go into crazy theory territory like, oh, this thing has birds in it, and Griffith has a bird in his name, and he leads the Band of the Hawk, so it's obviously related. We're not going to be going down that road. So for the most part, this video is going to be collecting what is, I don't want to say very easy to spot, either visually or thematically, but I do want to say that anyone could spot these and not just hardcore Berserk fans. I also feel the need to make the distinction that this video is not what influenced Berserk, but what has been influenced by Berserk. Not that I think you're stupid and don't know what words mean or anything, but dyslexia is a thing. Now, I'm going to be excluding Dark Souls from this video because that is the most obvious and easy answer, but I do want to make a video going over every influence that Dark Souls has received from the Berserk series. Let me know if that's something you'd be interested in seeing in the comments below. Something else I want to make the distinction of is the difference between references and influences, because everything could be a reference, but it is a lot harder to be truly influenced by something. The first character I want to talk today is what actually inspired this video, which is Asura from Asura's Wrath. When I was editing my last video, I started noticing some things similar about Asura comparatively to my boy Guts. Mostly was that they look very similar in terms of appearance. If you haven't noticed by the still images I am putting up, Asura is just Guts with white hair. At least like facially and build-wise. Now, I would normally chalk that up to coincidence, but I also have intimate knowledge of Asura's Wrath's story and themes, as I've probably played through its story 5 to 6 times, maybe more. Now, the next similarity that I wanted to go through, or that I noticed, is that Asura has the will to push through all the odds and keep on pushing. While that in itself is not unique, I want to make the case that since it's a shared narrative and central theme to both stories, that there's some credence to that particular trait. This is actually something that is brought up multiple times throughout the story. The question being why Asura pushes forward the way that he does. This being brought up by the spider, the people he fights, and ultimately God, which is just the icing on the cake, honestly, as the spider is trying his best to manipulate things to go his way, which can be looked at as the law of causality from Berserk, and fate, as the spider is trying to make fate happen the way he wants to. It keeps getting more and more likely that Asura's Wrath is somewhat influenced by Berserk. Asura's Wrath was developed by Capcom, and CyberConnect 2 are both Japanese developers, and Berserk is very well known in Japan, and the fact that Asura looks similar to Guts, very similar in fact, the fact that it's a major part of his character to push forward against all odds and against God himself, compared to Guts, who is literally fighting against fate and against the God Hand, against causality. The parallels are there, and it deserves a deeper look. Now, there's a lot to deconstruct here about Asura's Wrath's take on religion and Berserk's take on religion. In Asura's Wrath, Asura views the deities as frauds, only using the prayers of the innocent for their own gain and furthering their own agenda. Asura: I pray to no one, nor will I be prayed to, but above all else, I will never forgive you for making my daughter cry. While the gods themselves believe that their ends are justifying the means, and through the sacrifice of the population of the earth, they could eventually save Gaia and future generations. The only problem with that is that they've probably killed around 7 trillion people, and this is a morally gray area of the game, at least through the eyes of Yasha, one of the game's protagonists, who Yasha is at first on the deity side before coming to his senses once he sees Asura's natural power growth. The importance of this is the main theme of the story, fighting against one's fate. Deus is the leader of the 7 deities and the strongest of them, and he comes to the conclusion that the only possible way to defeat the Goma, who are the will of the planet, is to use the prayers of humans and use the power of their souls and turn it into energy in order to become powerful enough to break free of their fate, as the deities were destined to live in an existence where they fight the Goma for all eternity. The importance of this is that Asura gains the power on his own versus using the power of slain humans. In the same way, Guts uses his own strength instead of using the Behelit in order to gain the strength to kill Griffith. In fact, the only reason Guts retains his humanity is because he doesn't use the Behelit. He knows it'll make him stronger, but he chooses to stand on his own 2 feet. And this could be said about Asura as well. He's the only one in the game besides Yasha who relies on his own strength for the most part. Yes, I'm aware there are times where Asura gets power-ups by other characters, but these are more outliers, and these aren't things he blatantly decides to use. It's either when he's unconscious, or it just kind of happens and he doesn't really have a choice in the matter. But the God Hand, or more likely Griffith, has the same mindset as the deities from Asura's Wrath. The ends justify the means. There is no price too high to pay to achieve the dream, whether it's sacrificing the people most dear to you or 7 trillion people. Guts. If you meet God, tell him just to leave me alone. From where I stand, you're the same as the idol you worship, completely hollow. Guts and Asura have the same outlook when it comes to religion, and both see it for the facade that it is, just a means for people to push their own agenda, usually at the cost of others. The only difference being that Asura comes face to face with God and defies his plans right to his face, defying fate and the concept of God, while Guts doesn't necessarily come face to face with God per se. He does come face to face with the Chosen One, aka Griffith. While the comparisons are there and can be felt throughout Asura's Wrath, there are a lot more influences besides Berserk, Eastern mythology being a big part of that. Asura's Wrath wears a blanket of Hindu and Buddhist mythology, invoking the images of Buddha and other famous Hindu poses. This is especially apparent in Chakravartin and the general aesthetic and posing shown throughout the game. The amount of Hinduistic imagery is insane and very prevalent, which very much matches thematically with the ideas of reincarnation and rebirth prevalent throughout the game, and the fact that Asura exists in both Hinduism and Buddhism, while in different contexts, makes this a very interesting parallel. There's also a fair amount of Hindu imagery in Berserk as well, from Salat to Dayaba to someone literally named Ganishka, who is the god of destruction in Hinduism. I'm aware that you could just say this is coincidence, but the amount of parallels here just keeps getting deeper and deeper. Obviously, there's things that aren't present in Berserk, but are present in Asura's Wrath, such as the Journey to the West and the obvious influence from Dragon Ball. There is enough thematically to acknowledge the influence of Berserk has had on this story. With that being said, this video was a lot longer than I was expecting it to be, or at least for this particular section. And that being said, I wasn't expecting the Asura section of this video to be as long as it is. So I decided that I'm going to be making this a kind of like a little mini series. With this being episode 1, I'm going to be going over future IPs and future episodes. But for now, thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed me rambling about theories and parallels and things of that nature. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you guys soon. I appreciate you guys taking the time, and yes, this will be episode 1 of the Influences of Berserk. I appreciate you guys checking this out, and I will see you guys soon.